Welcome back to part 2 of our farmer interview series with AD Alvarez of the Camotes Islands in the Philippines. Today we'll be discussing AD's focus on keeping Filipino farmers up to date on technologies and practices, as well as his efforts to help policymakers better understand what it is farmers do. But if you haven't caught part 1 of his series, go back and rewatch that first. The system that you're building there in the Philippines, because you're really trying to teach people how to farm, how to update those practices, but also that it's a means to, move up to a different income class or be able to provide for your family and for yourself. It was your microfinance background, I know, that led you to that, but what's been the process like of actually coming in and teaching farmers or teaching people new practices? How do you go about doing that?
Well, a lot of farmers, especially here in the island mindset is they don't get much exposure on these technologies. That's why, even though since 2021 we already have the good varieties of corn, it only no, it's 2010. We already have some of the good commercial varieties of corn, but it doesn't reach the island because people don't go out much of the island, especially the farmers. It was an interesting journey for farmers to adopt the technology. Like one significant difference in planting corn, they would plant corn here two kernels or 2 to 5 kernels in one hole. They have not prepared their seeds properly, and the germination rate of their seeds are low. So they would put 5 kernels of corn, hoping that at least one of them would grow, but eventually 3 or 4 would grow, and it's not a good practice. So when we were reintroducing a better way of farming, some farmers were laughing, some farmers were criticizing. Very few were very interested. So the reason why we needed to farm is we needed to demonstrate, because farmers would tend to believe what they see more than a 2 hour seminar being conducted. So when they started seeing uh, corn ears a size of their arms on our cornfield, they were astonished, and people will just. I would walk in the marketplace, people would know me, and they would start asking me, "What did you do? What made your corn bigger?" So I became a local celebrity here. Farmers were trying to ask, um, "How did I do the farm?" And I didn't do anything special really. I just brought in the technology, and the bottom line is the yield. So from 600 kilograms to 8,000 kilograms of yield, that's a big difference, and they started to understand the advantage of the technology.
So that celebrity status that you mentioned has certainly gotten you, I think, some recognition. You've been on some domestic as well as global stages, getting to talk to a lot of different policymakers and opinion makers. How did you get involved in that? Is it just people saw you and saw what you were doing and thought he's a good guy to have on a panel?
Well, it's different stages. The first was I got invited with the Cornell Alliance for Science, and that's where I met Mary in 2017 in Illinois. It was conducted in Illinois. It was an international training for different farmers around the world adopting the biotechnology. And because of our story, we were nominated for that. And after that, I got involved with that Global Farmer Network, which really amplified more of our story, and it just keeps on repeating. And then we were trained also to do social media posts and things like that. Some media people have recognized some of the things that I posted, and I became one of the regional leaders for the national corn of the Philippines. So I get involved in many leadership positions, and of course, it helps my preacher background. It helps in somehow in being able to speak in public, which a normal uh, farmer here is not able to do. So I think it's a great opportunity for to speak for the smallholder farmers, and at the same time to participate in this discussion how our agriculture in the Philippines can improve.
Yeah, I've always wondered how people decide what their position is on certain statements and issues and how they go about presenting that, to places like the Congress of the United States or the at COP27. How do they go about getting in front of these stages of people who have these world leaders and ambassadors and dignitaries? And here we are as a farmer coming on stage to present and share about what you do. And I think it sounds like a really humbling experience as well. And your background as a preacher certainly helps with that. But when you have the platform or the stage, so to speak, what is it that you tend to focus on? What's your message to those types of people?
Over the years, I've been learning a lot more in the challenge of agriculture. At the same time, the irony that it is one of the most important things in the world. Like everybody needs food, and there's a big disconnect between the producers of the food, the policymakers, and the power of economic freedom to really make agriculture a good system, or what we call the food system. So it's not at one time I'm already knowledgeable in all these things. It's the more exposure I get, the more people I get to interact with. That's why the Global Farmer Network is a great group. It's also a humbling experience because these are we call in the Philippines huge farmers, like farmers with I think 19,000 hectares, 20,000 hectares, and compared to us here in the Philippines, it's half a hectare per farmers. And once you get to talk to farmers around the world, we have these common issues we deal with, common struggles. But one thing I noticed is um, the macroeconomics of a country have a very big impact in what kind of agriculture is happening on the ground. I had an experience with my friend Larry Saylor, who's also a member of the Global Farmer, harvesting, I think in 2018, fall 2018, when I participated in the Global Farmer Network. And then I stayed with Larry and Janice farm in Iowa, and he allowed me to drive those combines. It was a very unique experience for me. Combine. We harvested corn and soybeans, and for a Filipino farmer who've been watching it in YouTube, we were fascinated in all those equipment. And then all of a sudden, in 2018, I find myself driving one. It was like amazing experience, and in seeing the difference of the system, how well the bigger economy and the policymakers are supportive of the structure and giving importance to the farmers. Makes a big difference to how agriculture would really work. In the Philippines, we still have a lot of things to do to fix in our agriculture system. I was in a couple of meetings via Zoom online on the policies of the different farmer councils, and we were tackling some issues, and I see the disconnect. We still have to do a lot, and as a private individual trying to improve agriculture, it's a hard journey because I don't think there will be improvements in the next coming years. But we have to be resilient because somebody has to take this position in this generation. Otherwise, it will be worse than the next generation if somebody will not take that place.
Well, that was another great conversation here with AD. We're going to wrap things up with this month's theme at Global Farmer Network, which is resiliency in agriculture.